wants to just implement them. And I have been fascinated by how the brain does this since I was doing these very nasty ballet exams as a teenager, and the ballet instructor would just do this. And there was no words, and the music started, and we had to do it on point. And it was always marvelous to me that I actually did it without thinking about it. So I've always been interested in how the brain controls movement, but I'm also very interested in what happens when it goes wrong. And there's a disease called Parkinson's disease that was described by James Parkinson in 1817, and it's exemplified by this gentleman here, who has resting tremor, and he has slow movement, he has difficulty performing a simple figure tapping task, and you can see that brings out the tremor on the other side. And he has difficulty rotating his hand, it's called slow movement or bradykinesia. But really, what's really quite dramatic as the disease goes on is that in Parkinson's disease, people find it difficult to recruit not only complex movements, but these well-learned automatic movements that we take for granted, such as getting out of a chair or walking. So this gentleman, he needs his people system. It took about 100 years before it was discovered that, in fact, due to degeneration of dopaminergic neurons in the midbrain, there was actually maladaptive neural activity in these deep regions of the brain called the basal ganglia and in circuitry in the sensory motor network. So what are the challenges and opportunities if you want to go ahead and investigate what is the neural activity responsible for complex movement disorders such as in Parkinson's disease? And if you think about this like an engineering problem, then if you want to investigate something, the first thing you need is some computerized objective and validated output. So in the case of Parkinson's disease, you need to have objective validated measures of these complex movements in human subjects. And when I moved from my postdoc with Steve Lisberger, where I was studying motor learning of the vestibular reflex in primates, back to humans, I found that the way we used to measure movement in Parkinson's disease was with clinical rating scales, which, albeit were very good and comprehensive, were not really of the resolution needed for an engineering solution. How are you going to access and record neural activity in these deep regions in a way human subjects? And how do you measure both the neural activity and movement in real time in 3D moving people? And if you can do that, can you figure out what the neural signatures are of abnormal movement and use them to drive smarter, responsive, or closed-loop neurostimulation of Parkinson's disease, which basically might act as a template for a wider range of neuropsychiatric diseases? So the first problem, one of the wonderful things about working with human subjects, apart from the fact that they're wonderful people to work with, is that they can do complex movement without much pain, and many of the animal scientists here will understand what I'm saying. It takes a while to train a monkey to do a movement. But the problem is, how do you measure complex movements quantitatively in the human, and then in neurological disorders that cause movement disorders? So for quite a while, and I can't show you all the data here, but we have been working on this in my lab, and we targeted the development of computerized objective measures of movement really to the clinical rating scale in Parkinson's disease that we wanted to measure. Fine motor control, which we initially did with a repetitive alternation figure tapping task, which could fill the fairly well-learned movement on a MIDI keyboard, and we subsequently developed and built our engineered keyboard. And from this, we can actually see all the movement problems that you see in Parkinson's disease. And actually, we validated this with the clinical rating scale, and this is actually one of the most sensitive ways of measuring even large-scale movement disorders. And we can measure tremor, we can measure bradykinesia, we can measure breathing behavior. We've been using wearable sensors for a very long time. We can strap them onto the limb. We use them in the operating room, we use them in the clinic now, and we've always used, up until recently, a solid-state gyroscope because Steve Lisberger drum in my head that the brain codes for velocity, and so I've always measured a velocity measuring device. And we've also used dual force plates to measure more active motor control in Parkinson's disease, such as balance, and now we've developed the first metric for actually something called freezing a gait, which I'll show you as we go on in this talk, where the patients are doing a repetitive stepping and safe tasks. So we've done a lot of work, and it's led to a lot of very interesting discoveries. So here are the challenges. Here's another lady with Parkinson's disease who's having great difficulty in that very automatic movement of getting out of the chair. And now as you see, as she walks, she has very short step gait because she has postural instability. Her whole axis has to move without much achy sway, and you'll see the way she tries to turn, she breathes. And here are the challenges. Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological disorder. It affects not only the sensory motor networks, but it also affects limbic or mood networks, associated networks, cognitive, circuitry, and the autonomic nervous system. And how do you access this circuitry in a human subject? Well, here's the opportunities. Here's the same person about 6 months after she received deep brain stimulation, which is basically the implantation of a brain pacemaker. What we do is we implant the deep brain stimulation lead into the deep regions of the brain, and when we turn it on this stage, not using any medication, you see that wonderful walking pattern look very normal. And so the reason that we now can report on this deep brain circuitry is that we now can use what the brain has as far as organized, physiological, and topographically separated signatures of sensory motor, of the sensory motor circuitry, the limbic circuitry, the assistive circuitry, which is separated somewhat anatomically in the brain. And really, that is the only reason that we can actually use deep brain stimulation as therapy for the motor disorders in Parkinson's disease. So we use this clinically, and we can also use this now in our research. And so this is just a graphic to show you this is where these leads go. They go deep into the brain. They're connected by an extension to a regular pacemaker-looking pulse generator or implanted neurostimulator. This is what Dr. Jamie Henderson, who has really pioneered the brain-space methods for targeting these deep brain structures. And here we are with a wearable sensor on the patient's foot and arm, and we're moving all the joints of the contralateral limb and recording from the brain, and I'll show you that in a minute, in order to map out the sensory motor region. But as you know, this is a fairly challenging thing to do. Subthalamic nucleus is this little nucleus deep in the brain, and to do this work, even to do the clinical work, we have to go in with this fine microelectrode and do extracellular recording from the unit in the subthalamic nucleus. And from this, we can get very nice single unit traces. We actually work in a Faraday cage as standard. It's a shielded operating room, so we have wonderful signal-to-noise ratio. And as you can see, here's the graphic of what I'm doing with mapping. I look like I'm moving the foot, but this is actually wrist extension, and here's the angular velocity of a rapid wrist extension movement, and the neuron I'm recording for is clearly activated, and so I literally march up and down the body, and I can map out the sensory motor region. So that's the clinical piece. What we can also do is measure something called the local field potential, and that really is a local electrical network, and that could be atoms coming in from other regions, but it's more of a meter scale type of electrical activity. And from now on, everything I will be talking about in this talk is in terms of the local field potential. So this work has been done extensively in non-human primates and in rodent models of Parkinson's disease and in humans, and it has been shown that in fact, in the frequency band of about 8 to 30 Hz, which is the canonical alpha and beta band, there appears to be oscillations and exaggerated synchrony in Parkinson's disease. Now, a lot of people jumped on this about 15 years ago and said, we have the first biomarker of Parkinson's disease, and we've approached this fairly skeptically. So we set out to do a prospective study of everybody who was coming through the operation room who consented, and after we placed the leads, we did what we call a resting state recording, and out of 130 FTMs, we actually found evidence of oscillatory activity in the beta band in all but one of them. And what is that? Well, here is a recording from here is the subthalamic nucleus, and here is the deep brain stimulating lead. So this is a tetrode. It has 4 electrodes on it, and we're basically looking in from the side here. And we can record directly from this lead, and here's the type 60 spectrogram, basically the hotter colors in high power, and here the bottom traces from the most central electrode pair, the middle traces from set of electrodes 1 to 2, and the top traces from electrodes 2 to 3. And you can see that there seems to be increased power in this band here around the beta region. This is just a different way of describing it. This is basically a power spectral density diagram with power on the y-axis and frequency on the x-axis. Here's that ventral channel pair that has not very much power in it. Here's that channel 1 to 2 that seems to have most of the power, and here's the dorsal pair that has less but still increased power. And so you would probably naturally say to me, well, how do you know this is not normal? And the answer is I don't. But in animal models, and actually there's still debate about this, but in animal models, there certainly doesn't appear to be such exaggerated oscillations in non-Parkinsonian rodents. But we don't normally do this kind of recording in people who don't have Parkinson's disease. But just to give you an idea, our brain wants to synchronize different parts of it together. That is how we function. We will transient synchronize different regions of the brain to think, to have emotions, to move. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to be locked in one frequency band of synchrony persistently and in an exaggerated sense. And this is actually, in my opinion, this is something that is not an all or nothing situation. So in going through the talk, we may not want to completely wipe this out, but we do seem to want to lower this type of synchrony in the Parkinson's brain. So this received a lot of attention in the literature, and Peter Brown's group in London and in Oxford were from the pioneers here. And what they did is they can actually externalize the lead after the operation room, and they can record some of the deep brain circuitry in the days in between implanting the lead and then implanting the pacemaker. And so what they can do, the patient's still tethered, but they can give the patient their usual dose of medication, and they can ask whether in fact this bad guy, this beta arrhythmia goes away. So here's an example of the beta rhythm in the off-drug state, and you can see in the on-drug state it is attenuated, and in this situation it's attenuation in the beta regions, and actually there's a gamma band that appears. And this is identical saying that gamma is prokinetic and beta is akinetic. And we were again fairly skeptical about this, and we said, okay, but there's another therapy that makes people better, and I just showed you an active brain stimulation. So if you should see attenuation of this rhythm with brain stimulation as well. That was a little hard to do initially because you couldn't record the signals in the beta band during high frequency stimulation because of the stimulation artifact. But once we solved that problem in Alberto Barry and this group did this first in Italy, we used a base filter and we stimulated, it's a little small, but this is a diagram of the lead. We stimulated one electrode, we recorded around it, we then did a randomized presentation of different voltages in the operation room of the brain stimulation. This is a ramp-up detected side effect. And as we did this, we saw that there was a nice voltage-dependent attenuation of this beta band, and the attenuation really acted as about the clinical voltages. And this is what was initially started by Field of Large in my lab taken on by Diane Whitmer and Anka Velafar. So we asked some more questions in the operation room. Are exaggerated and persistent beta oscillations a feature of the distributed sensory motor network? It's all very fine if we're sitting recording in the subthalamic nucleus, and it's just a property of the subthalamic nucleus, but we've got to make the whole sensory motor network behave better. And if so, is the subthalamic nucleus acting like a node? And such that when we stimulate the subthalamic nucleus, can we attenuate this rhythm throughout the sensory motor network? Well, to do that, we first have to figure out what is the connected sensory motor network, and can we do this? Again, very challenging in the human subject. And so this literature just we've done a fair amount of work looking at recordings in the STN, showing in fact that there seem to be signature rhythms within a patient where the signals between the two STNs were very similar and actually coherent, but were different among individuals, suggesting that the two STNs were linked in this rhythm. And if we know there's no anatomical connection between the subthalamic nuclei, there has to be a third atom. We were having lots of fun with Carl and Viviana Gardinaro at this time bouncing back ideas and so on. They had an idea that the psychodirect pathway from the motor cortex to the subthalamic nucleus might be very important to modulate as the mechanism of therapy for GDS. Jay Henderson and I set about to do a very challenging experiment in the operation room, and initially he and Scott Atlas did diffusion tractography to identify the sites on the motor cortex that seem to be the site of the origin of the psychodirect pathway, which is a monostatic pathway that goes actually from many regions of the cortex to the subthalamic nucleus. So the subthalamic nucleus is a really important node in the basal ganglia. And once they did that, he and our physicist Bruce Hill developed a little introducer so that Jay could actually slip a cortical strip electrode, which is used a lot for epilepsy recording, underneath the burr hole and line it up over the TCI projection sites. We then proceeded to implant both of the STN leads, and then we did recording from both STN and the cortical strip, asking the question, is there some functional connectivity in electrophysiological terms, that means coherence, in the beta band, and if we stimulate in the STN, do we affect the beta band in the cortex? And without showing you all the data side, the answer is yes. In fact, the site of maximum coherence between the two STNs was also the site of maximum coherence with that efferent projection site, and in fact, when we applied randomized presentations of voltages in the subthalamic nucleus, we attenuated the lateral cortical data only over the projection site, because in one lead, it actually flipped, and it was only after we analyzed the data, thinking that maybe this wasn't basically a real finding, Jay came back to us and said, oh, I've just done the reconstructions, and one lead flipped, and in actual fact, it was the one where we did not see the effect. So this was actually very interesting work in the operation room, suggesting that the whole sensory motor network seems to be locked in this persistent, exaggerated beta rhythm. So this is all very fine and good. We've done lots of work in the operation room, but really, and this was really the only time we could access deep brain circuitry, when the leads were externalized and the subject is tethered to tables and then lying down in the operation room, at least in the USA. And as you know, with research in the operation room, it's not exactly your ideal laboratory. It's time limited, the subjects can't get up and move around, we've already done a procedure, they're tired, and it's a very expensive experimental setting. So how do you access brain circuitry to measure neural and kinematic activity in real time and while humans are freely moving? And this was not possible until, as Brian said, we had this wonderful development that Medtronic used the FDA-approved generator and then put firewall protected software, sensing software on it, which could actually sense the local field potentials and download them right onto the device using telemetry. We could then download those onto a recording tablet, and so they asked for a request for proposal, and ours was to investigate the neural signatures of tremor, bradycardia, and freezing behavior in Parkinson's subjects with bilateral subthalamic nucleus implantation. And we did the first subject in the United States about 3 years ago. I do have to have a shout out to our friends at UCSF in case anybody's here. They did do their first one the next day, but we got them first. We can't usually say that. And since then we've implanted 21 subjects, which is the largest cohort in the world. So now we have many more opportunities. We can now access brain circuitry in free moving human subjects using a sensory neurostimulation, and there's two major ways we can go. One is we investigate the neural basis for the Parkinson's disease and other neuropsychiatric diseases and how the neighbor is doing with memory, with depression, and other deranged OCD. We can also use brain or kinematic signals of abnormal behavior to develop the first closed-loop brain pacing. So easy. But here's the first ever readout of somebody who has synchronized video and a readout of both subthalamic nuclei as he's standing, and then as he walks, you can see the rhythm changes right away. And then you think, stand again. So just once you see it, you think, oh my goodness, how can we never have known that? But I treat patients and I constantly think about what's going on in their brain when I'm looking at them. It's as if I'm completely blind. And so is the neurostimulator. It has no idea what it's doing. But now, all of a sudden, we can see in real time what is going on in the brain, at least in this little subthalamic nucleus, as people move freely about the lab. We're trying to make it freeze by making walk through these barriers, in case anyone was wondering. We can also now do some more careful experiments. And so imagine if you were sitting and I asked you to do this, and you probably don't think very much about doing it. And what we do is we have the angular velocity sensor on the wrist, and as this person is moving, they're getting a little slower, and as you can see, here's their resting state band, and as they move, it suddenly drops out, and then a very different band appears. We turn on the brain stimulation, and the band is attenuated, they get better, we turn it off, the movement band comes back, and the resting band also comes back when they stop. So all of a sudden, this is the first time we're seeing that there actually is something different going on when you move, and I don't have time to discuss all of this, but just to say one thing, if you're going to use this to close loop, you're going to have to make sure you know which band to use, because if you're going to use the resting state band and they go off walking around, that might not be the best band to use. I told you we developed an electrical freezing case. I'm just going to quickly take you through this. This is somebody doing a repetitive stepping chase pass on dual force plate. We've normalized the force to their body weight so that 100% here means for that foot, they're putting all their weight on that foot, and the other foot is underneath the state, and it's basically at 0%, and so they alternate like that. And it's not difficult to write a computer algorithm to then detect when they don't get their feet off the force plate, which is here, and that is when they are frozen. What's interesting here, which has never been seen before, is that actually what you can see here is there's still clearly a neural signal coming down, trying to shift weight.